Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel, Adamant Orange. Welcome to another 3D metal model build video. Today we are going to put together this very small Beretta model. This was a model that was sent in by a viewer, Walter J. Schuler, who also sent me the AK-47 model I built some time back. I've actually started working on this for a while now, but it's been delayed by the move. Anyway, let's go over to the table, open up this package, see what's inside, and see just how much fun or much difficulty was involved in putting this model together. Alright, we have the Beretta pistol. Let's give this a little tap. Oh, you know what? Maybe I won't just tear the top off. Or maybe I will. Let's try to open this a little more cleanly. That's not going to work. Got to use some tools. There we are. Instructions. And is it just one sheet? It's just one sheet of metal. So we have our single sheet of metal, and it's covered in a plastic film, which is fairly typical for the copycat or knockoff Metal Earth models, the Piecefun brand. And then we have our one piece of paper for the instructions. And I have been warned by more than one person that these instructions can be a bit confusing and misleading. And they are very small. Nothing on the back. Very small. Just one tiny little piece of paper. Let me look this over for a moment. So looking over the instructions fairly briefly, it's not much detail to it. We got some general warnings about keeping out of the reach of children and small parts. Pay attention to sharp edges. Carefully discard metal sheets after parts have been removed. There's, very poor copy of, or very poor illustration of the insertion tabs, fold lines, and insertion holes. And bit about insert, the blue circle and green triangle, which in this case are just a circle and triangle. There's no color in here. This is all black and white. But the blue circle is folded tabs, green circle, or green or blue circle is folded tabs, triangle is twisted tabs. I've said that so many times that it's just automatic. Notations about pulling and twisting, pretty much the same stuff you see in Metal Earth. Some notations on needle nose pliers and clippers. And you've got a line drawing of the metal sheet so that you can find your parts. I believe that orientation is correct. And then over here on the next page you have all of your assembly instructions compressed into one tiny little piece of paper. Assembly method: follow assembly flowchart. And there's really barely even a flowchart. There's such a lacking of detail. You've got part 1 and 2, and it's really fuzzy. I guess this is just saying this molds around the edges of part 1. There's not a lot of detail there. And then we've got 3, 4, and 5. I guess you're supposed to shape 3 to add there, and 4 shape somehow. It doesn't give much detail on how you're supposed to shape stuff. It's kind of vague, so I can definitely see where people have trouble following these directions. So there's just really not much point in me going into any detail here. It's a very basic and I'm not even sure what word to use. It's just a very basic assembly flowchart with not a lot of hints given as to what you're supposed to do. So pretty much I'm just going to have to tear into it and do my best and try not to totally flub things up. But for one, with these particular models, you have to peel this sheeting off to get to what's underneath. And I recommend being careful don't pull up like that. You can bend the metal, just fold it all the way over, pull it away from corners away from each other, try and keep from bending the metal, and there you go. So let's all get some tools together and get started with this build. Let's talk a little bit about tools. The very basics of what you're going to need is a pair of tweezers and some clippers. The tweezers, you can do a lot of bending, shaping, twisting of tabs, folding of things over. The clippers are going to help you get the pieces out of the sheets cleanly and easily by clipping them out instead of trying to bend them out, which can cause damage. I've also supplemented my set with some precision tweezers. I have a couple of pointed ones here. One, I ground the tip down just a little bit to give it a more sturdy tip for tabs and twisting things, and then I have a precision flat set, and between all of these I can do a lot of bending and shaping and twisting. I also strongly recommend some sort of pliers to complement your set. I have some flat nose here that have definite uses. I have some long needle nose pliers for some of the longer pieces, and then I have some curved tips for grabbing things at an angle and bending them over. For shaping a lot of curves and dome shapes and whatnot, you'll see me use an array of 3D printed tools that I've designed that you can find on my Etsy if you're interested. Otherwise, you'll also see me pull out a cheap drill bit set that I have that's not sharp for shaping cylinder shapes, or just look around your house and use objects that you find like dowel rods, pencils, maybe some beads to shape certain things. This is an extremely thin and flimsy part. It's supposed to border the side grip of the gun. I am not really sure what the correct way to place it is. I do not know which end to start with, where the seam is supposed to go, or where to place the thicker or thinner parts. The instructions are absolutely no help. They could have at least made some sort of offset tab arrangement so that it would only fit one way. I studied it for a while before I just decided to pick a spot and start there. I honestly do not remember what my reasoning was, but I think there was a gap that I expected would line up with the thicker parts logically. I didn't even try to fold over the tabs. This part was so flimsy I knew folding it would not go well. I figured I would attach the tabs then try to sort out the shape of the part. It's so flimsy, it does not want to hold the shape.
Many of the parts are warped just by being clipped out. Getting these parts on was not so bad. I think, judging by the picture, there is supposed to be a slight curve in this part. So there are 2 slots for 4 tabs. 2 slots are completely missing. Really can't say I'm surprised. I just bent the 2 tabs with no slots to go into, inside and out of the way. In an attempt to get better results on this side, I made an attempt to shape the border trim as I connected it. That helped, but only a little. There are a lot of tabs in this kit that just are not long enough, and it's tough to get a solid connection. The trigger is an example of this. I did my best to twist the tabs, but there's only so much to grab onto. This build is becoming increasingly fiddly and cumbersome. I wanted to add a drop or two of Loctite to help hold the trigger in place. It was quite loose. Now to get these tabs on the back of the trigger guard into that little plate. These two curved pieces on either side behind the trigger are the worst parts of this model. I struggled with them for quite a while and could not get them in their place to stay. It does not help that they are in an awkward place, but that alone I could get around. Add to that, getting in to twist the tabs is difficult, but I could still manage. However, the tabs are so short, there's almost nothing to twist, bend, or grab a hold to. After more struggling than I'm going to show here, I took a break. And I also moved. I decided to give UV glue a try. I ordered some 5-second bond to see if I could hold the part on with that. The first try did not work. I think I did not cover enough of the tab. I put the tip back in and added even more glue to try and encompass the twisted tab and turn the light on for a little more than 5 seconds to give it plenty of time. After the second try, the tab broke off from being flexed too much. I gave in and moved on to the other side. The second try went better. It doesn't look great, but the part is on there. And the last piece I put on fell off when I picked up the bigger part. I guess I'm going to be using more of the UV bond than I expected. This tab was not going into its slot. Honestly, by this point I was pretty well aggravated with this model and losing the ability to care. I just moved on without securing the tab. I realized I was adding this assembly on top and that I needed to fold out some thin side flaps. I realized at this point I missed the part that I should have installed before adding this top section onto the gun. It's not all that unusual for me to sometimes miss a part, but I have to say that with the instructions being so poor and crowded, it's easy to miss something. I strongly dislike one-tab connections. They are difficult to secure because oftentimes they can tilt or twist and come right out of place. Even with a dab of 5-second fix, the part fell out, and I said to heck with it. I was pretty well fed up at this point and continued on without it. I added the rectangular piece and then decided to put the twisted end in place and secure the other end of this flimsy falling off part. That worked. I decided to give one more try to putting the curved piece on by the trigger. I basically slapped on some obvious 5-second fix and made it stay. And now we shape the stand, and I am done with this thing. And there you go, the model is all done and finished, and it took a solid 2 hours to put this together. Honestly, it shouldn't have taken that long. This has been a extremely frustrating build to put together. It's just way more difficult than it needs to be. It's not, in my opinion, a well thought out design for a model, and there were so many things wrong with it. This thing just would not have come together without the aid of some sort of glue or adhesive or something, or in my case UV bond. Actually, I used both during this build. What a terrible build. Honestly, what a just an absolutely terrible build. It looks kind of neat, but it's full of flaws, and I'm gonna leave it at that. As always, thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.